안녕하세요. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to this afternoon's session entitled Next Generation Education, Technology in the Classroom and Beyond. Quick introduction to myself. My name is Vincent Quah. I'm the Education and Research Lead for Asia Pacific and Japan for AWS Worldwide Public Sector. Our agenda this afternoon, we're going to talk about the story of these 4 points. Why is AWS becoming so popular for education? And then we're going to talk in a bit more detail about what universities and institutions are using AWS for in the area of the business of education, in the area of teaching and learning for education, and lastly, about what they're doing to accelerate science, doing research, and a program that we call AWS Educate. And so these are the 4 areas that we'll be touching through today. Some of it I'll go through a little bit faster because you have already seen some of the slides, but I'll just call out the key main points. But I'll spend a bit more time telling you some of the stories that we have experienced and seen with our customers. AWS, as you know, provide a wide range of portfolio of services. Over in this chart, we talk a lot about our AWS global infrastructure. And then we also spend a bit of time explaining what are some of our networking capabilities that we have across the world. But the core AWS services that any education institution would use would be those that is found in the compute, storage, and database services. In addition, you have application services as well as services that will help you deploy and administer some of your workloads in the AWS environment. And I'll quickly touch on the first, which is the global infrastructure. You might have seen this chart, but there are important concepts in this chart. The first is all the orange circles are what we call regions, and these are defined as a geographical location with multiple sets of data center. And within a region, we have a concept also called availability zone. It's almost like a region is divided into a number of availability zones, separate from each other, with different connectivity, different floodplains, different power grids, and they are very independent of each other. This concept of availability zone allows you to build highly available solution and allows you to even build disaster recovery solutions just within a single region. You've heard that we already have 12 regions. Soon, at the end of this year, we're going to end up with 17 regions as defined by all the green circles that you see. And in Asia alone, you're going to have 7 AWS regions, which is really, really good for Asia. I'm very excited by that. The one point that I want to point out about this slide is about capacity. Gartner says that AWS is not only the leader in the Magic Quadrant, but in terms of capacity, we are 10 times the size of the next 14 vendors put together collectively. That is a very important concept because it also means that if you are trying to do a massive research project, you need not worry about running out of capacity. And I will share a story about that at a later on stage. I really like this chart My colleague Brad talked about the momentum that public sector agencies and government agencies are adopting the cloud, how fast they are, and the momentum that we are seeing. I'm excited to tell you that for education institutions and universities and schools, they are adopting cloud at even a faster rate. As you can see in the number, government agencies 2,000, education institutions more than 5,000. When I first joined AWS, about just slightly over 2 years ago, that number was just under 2,500. So within a 2-year time frame, we've already doubled the number of institutions, and we're continuing to add more and more institutions as we go along. Just a snapshot of the logos of some of our customers. You may recognize some of these customers. For example, Harvard University, Coursera, University of Tokyo, and Open Universities Australia. This is just a small sample of the customers that are using AWS. So why is the adoption so fast? Why is there so great a momentum? Simply because, as Brad has also shared with you just now, the amount of security requirements and compliance that we went through to meet certain standards, it's already there. You can be rest assured that whenever you use AWS, you're using and benefiting from every single work that we do in ensuring the highest level of security. That is definitely the first thing. It means that whenever there's new security requirement, we want to make sure that we work with the government to meet it. If there's a new standard at the international level, we work with the standard body to meet those standards. The second, which is very key, is on the right side. It's a little service called CloudTrail. This little service allows you to track every single thing that you do in your AWS environment. And what you end up is actually a complete log of all the activities that you do inside your AWS environment. What it means is you know exactly who did what time, what day. You can even determine what this person can do in that particular AWS environment and what rights he has. Can he shut down services? Can he start up services? This is so critical because whenever I go to a university, I ask the university, can you tell me how many physical servers you have in your university? Almost 100%, they will never be able to tell me because they're all over. But even if they can tell me how many servers they have, my next question is, how many of these servers are properly patched and updated? Are you able to manage them? And by the way, how many of these servers have services actually running and being used? Do you actually know who is using these services? And most universities will find it very difficult to be able to tell what data that they have. But in AWS, using these small little servers, you can actually know everything that's going on in your environment. And it's a very powerful thing that you can do. We talk a little bit about universities and education institutions. Very often they are in the traditional way of doing things. They spend weeks, if not months, trying to procure equipment. That's standard. It's normal. But when you move to an AWS environment, that speed of weeks and months is no longer relevant. We changed that to minutes. And what you can do in a minute, you can create a new development environment, a new production environment. You can even add 1,000 servers and shut down 1,000 servers in minutes. You can create a 1 petabyte data warehouse. Now, why is this important? It's because it gives you agility. It gives you flexibility to move things and to move your services and to move your projects at a very, very rapid pace. And this contributes to a big part that university is all about, and that is innovation. Universities is all about innovation. University is all about creating the next big idea, the next breakthrough, the next project that everybody wants to be a part of. But how do you get there? I was a researcher before, so I know what it takes to do research. I know what it takes to do experiments and fail in experiments. And when I run my experiments previously, it takes at least 3 days before I can see my results. But what if you can do that in the next 1 hour? It makes a world of difference. And when you do a lot of experiment, you normally would fail maybe 9 out of 10 times. And only once you get it right. But that means you can actually fail very quickly but very cheaply. Because in AWS, you can turn on your services and you can turn off the services in minutes. And because you can do that, you can fail cheaply, you can afford to innovate faster. And therefore, your innovation increases. So cloud now is on every CIO's, education CIO's list of must-do. And it's a number 3 item. Very, very important. It is, as what Brad said, it is the new normal. The cloud is the new normal for universities. And these are the reasons why they are using it. Time to result, as I've shared just now, the time to result is very, very important. Low costs. The model for AWS is very simple. It is really a utility model, a pay-as-you-go model. In other words, if you don't use it, you don't pay. It's only when you use it, then you start paying. It's really like electricity that we are enjoying in this room. Thirdly, elasticity. It means that you don't have to over-provision or over-buy and commit to hardware equipment, no longer. But as more and more users come into your website, the capacity will just move along with the utility. Give you an example. Every university and every institution needs to do registration and enrollment, maybe once a year or maybe twice a year. But can you imagine you only actually use the system maybe for 4 to 8 weeks of the entire year? So why do you actually need to install that system on a physical dedicated server when you're actually only using it for 4 to 8 weeks? What's going to happen to the last 10 months, which is actually wasted? But how do you know that you are serving and you are registering and enrolling your students as they come? You have to spend more, right? But in AWS, you don't have to. It just goes in a very elastic way. We talk a little bit about security, and you have all the security tools to secure your environment, and the tools that you would like to use to secure your own environment as well. Scalability, right? We have very, very high capacity, and we talk a little bit about that when I was talking about the Magic Quadrant. So now, I want to turn my attention to really telling you the story about the business of education. And I want to start with this slide by saying, if you look at this list, these are all the things that universities and institutions will do. This is a must-do if you are a university. You must have, for example, a student information system. This is where you capture, record, analyze all your student data. It is the core, the central part of your entire environment. And you must have that. The second one is, for example, ERP system, your finance system, your HR system, your procurement system, so on and so forth. But let's not forget about simple things like public and department websites. Every university has a website because they need to tell people and prospective students about the courses that they are offering. Otherwise, how would students know whether to register with this university or that university? And a lot of other services that they need to have. And so you can see that there's a whole range of possible workloads or use scenarios that universities can actually use AWS for. And as Brad has also said, there is a journey, right? There's a journey from the simpler ones to the more difficult ones. And, you know, we can help you with your workloads and help you journey along this process. Here are some examples that I want to talk about. And the one that I want to spend all the time on is the one on the left, your left, University of Notre Dame. This is a university that originally ran their university website on their own hardware infrastructure. And what happened was, it was during a major football game. And they were broadcasting the football game via their website to all their students and community. And guess what? That entire school website crashed. That's a major problem for the university. Where are the students? Where are the people, the community that supports the football club now can watch the game and get information and understand what's going on? They encountered this problem. They started to work with us. We helped them migrate their website from on-premise to AWS. The next game came along. The amount of traffic that came into AWS was 4 to 5 times the traffic that they have witnessed when it was on their on-premise system. But it worked because of its scalability and elasticity. They were so happy that they had this outcome. They said, we are confident in saying that the AWS infrastructure has performed exactly as intended. In other words, they all can go back to sleep very well. And I'm sure you would want to go back to sleep very well too. What's happening now is that University of Notre Dame has now committed to move 80% of their workloads into AWS over the next 2 years, starting actually last year. So it's a total of 3 years plan. And they are now all in. So that's an exciting project. And it's all started with a simple website. Open Universities Australia. Originally, they were running PeopleSoft Campus Solution, which is a student information system on-premise. Everything on a single stack of hardware. And then they architected to disaster recover to a different location. So if you think about service availability, it's a single stack, which means a single point of failure. They do not have redundancy. That's going to be a problem. Do you know how many students this university supports? Probably between 4 to 500,000 students over the world. So together with our partner, we work with the university and we help them migrate PeopleSoft from on-premise to AWS. Nothing has changed. The license still the same. And what we did was we deployed over 2 availability zones, and therefore we make it higher availability. So if one zone fails, the other zone still works. Not only if one zone fails, the other zone also acts as a disaster recovery site for you. There's also another additional benefit that the university receives, and that is Oracle REC. Now, for those of us who are familiar with Oracle licensing, Oracle REC licensing is extremely expensive. And what we were able to do was to work with them and help them deploy their Oracle database onto our Oracle Relational Database Services, which is a managed database services that AWS provides. So they don't need to use or subscribe to REC licenses again. They now use just a traditional standard Oracle license, but running it on RDS. And that saves them huge amount of costs. And it also reduces a lot of complexity and management overhead. Those are really great benefits for the universities. So here I'm coming back to the story of University of Notre Dame, as you see in the middle. They have now a cloud-first strategy. In fact, they have published a document on the web, and they say this is how we are going to migrate all the different applications over the next 3 years. You can actually do a search on the web, and you can find that document, which they share it publicly. But also, you notice Harvard. We know Harvard as a top university, one of the top universities in the world. They've stopped building data center. Now they run everything on AWS. And they built a set of services that interface between AWS at the back end and their users. And all they need to do, the users need to do, is to just apply for these resources, and they go through an application process and an approval process, and then they put in the code for their funding, and all the provisioning will be done on the AWS side. And this Harvard IT didn't even invest a lot of money because a lot of it is on AWS. So it's on demand. So you don't even have to forward plan and forward think. They just tell them, just come. As long as you have the funding, we will be able to support you. In the area of teaching and learning, there's a lot that can be done. And I want to talk about 3 to 4 different types of solutions that we have seen. I originally was not just a researcher, but I was also a lecturer. And so I'm very familiar with some of these workloads. And today we talk about a lot of learning. And really, where we want to get to is personalized learning. And the first solution that I want to introduce is a solution by our partner, Fusic, a Japanese partner. They have a booth in this summit, which is, I believe, it's just out here. So go look and have a chat with their marketing members there. But what this does, it allows you to provision virtual laboratory for your students. How cool is that? Now, if you are a private university, you are obviously sitting on real estate that you are paying rental for. And then if you have classrooms with physical equipment, that is a huge investment. What this solution allows you to do now is, can you imagine, you can now provision for specific professors, or for specific courses, or for specific sets of students, a stack of pre-configured resources, all to them on demand. on the fly. That saves you of setting up equipment, setting up rooms for all this. And by the way, in today's context, most students already carry a notebook. So once you have a notebook, you can access all these services very, very easily. So I'm very excited that Vincet has come up with a solution that allows you to do that. The second is about collecting data. So here is an example of a university, Ivy Tech. They're collecting so much student data that is now at petabyte scale. You can't imagine how much data that is. I can't imagine how much data is, but that's what they do, right? If you look at it, tens of thousands of student records, and probably they have records of past students as well, right? They want to do it for analytics. They can query their database now in seconds, down from minutes, down from 40 minutes. And they're saving a lot of money. So this university really understands how to make good use of the AWS services. This is another learning platform. It's not a learning solution, but it's a learning platform called Echo 360 by our partner Echo 360. If you are a university, you will be familiar with trying to integrate all these different solutions on the left. You have a library solution, you have a learning management solution, you have a MOOC platform, which is a massively open online course platform. You have student engagement, you have collaboration. So you have so many different solutions. But you can, and you spend a lot of effort and time trying to pull everything together. And what Echo 360 did was actually to bring all these different services together and created a platform. So it's a full range of integrated capabilities. What can it do? These are just some sample data that they capture. You see this? It's all about learning data. This gives you a score of engagement. So it's how much the students have engaged with the content, with the instructor. They can even get a point score for that. And so all this point score is a collection of all the various type of data that they actually collect from the students in the interaction, right? They even have an example of students can tell the lecturer or the instructor, this content is confusing to me. Yeah? How many points, how many times it is confusing? Maybe 3 parts out of the 10 that you have been telling me, I'm very confused. And they also have things like how much video time they spent watching it. So with all these coming together, they created an engagement score, which is pretty powerful. They use a lot of our AWS services, but these are the things that they can do, right? They can create discussions, they can find out stats, they can create notes too, to the point of even the video. So that's very exciting. This is a case about, back to Open Universities Australia. They have a platform, they developed their own learning platform, which uses Moodle and Drupal. These are 2 separate solutions that they combine and integrated with the help of an outsourced vendor. They can scale up to 100,000 concurrent users at a time. So scale is not going to be a problem. The next area I'm talking about, I'm going to the area of research and innovation. And what this is all about is speed and time to science, accelerating time to science. As I've said just now, it's about running a lot of experiments. It's about failing very rapidly, but getting to your results very, very quickly as well. Here's one example of UC Berkeley. They have created this platform for machine learning and data analytics used for a genomics type of research. Genomics, if you're not too familiar, it has to do with a lot of DNA, our RNA, all the things that is inside our cell that you cannot see. Okay? And they have created this platform that allows you to scale up very quickly and then scale down very quickly as well. A lot of researchers are also using public data sets. Here are some examples of public data sets. The life science public data set, which is 1,000 genomes. Lancet, Internet Science, Common Crawl Corpus. These are all data that is stored and made available to the public. And a lot of research actually depends very much on data sets. So we must get the scientists to the data set as fast as possible. The one example I want to share with you is the one at the bottom. It is about the 3,000 rice genome project that we work with. And this is with the International Rice Research Institute. They do research on rice. Rice, by the way, has 125,000 varieties in the world. And they have sequenced only 3,000 rice varieties. And we are hosting that data now in AWS. They did the analysis also on AWS. And what they thought they would need 4 months to complete the analysis, when they did it on AWS, because of our scale, they finished it in 1 day. Just the analysis alone. That's how fast they can actually achieve this. So it's pretty great. The last topic I want to talk about is the topic of AWS Educate. Now we are seeing the growth of the industry of cloud really changing the landscape. And what we are seeing is this. Back in 2015, in the Tech magazine, it says that 14 million jobs will be created for the cloud by 2015, and that's last year. And I'm sure this year, that number is just going to shoot through the roof again. Another data point for all of us is the one at the bottom by Forbes early this year, and they said that if you are a certified associate solution architect in AWS, you probably can end up with one of the highest paying jobs in the US. But the question is, where are all the people? The industry needs a lot of job in this area, but where are all the people? We have an issue. That issue is this massive skill set gap that we have in our graduates. We're not graduating enough students from our universities with real practical skill sets to go into the cloud industry and to have a career in the cloud industry. Because we see unemployment all over. And so what do we do? What can AWS do? We created this program called Educate. It is really about allowing the university to benefit from this program. In what ways? 4 ways. Number one, as a registered institution, all your teaching staff that teaches about cloud will get grants, will get credits for you to develop your content and your courses on AWS. All registered students in the courses will also get credits to be able to do their lessons and their experiments on AWS. We will also provide, or we have already provided, online training content made available through the program. But in addition, we have worked with some of the top computer science universities across the world and have them contribute their content into this program. And so you can actually go into this portal, download the content, and teach from the content. They are actually full courses, right? You get the actual PowerPoint material, even the laboratory practical exercises, the worksheets, the project details. A lot of content has been already contributed inside there. And the last benefit is that you now become part of a global community that is trying to do all these things. And you can actually share, talk to each other, and collaborate. So Educate, which is now being used by about 9 different universities here in Korea, right? We want to make sure we get the word out there. It is a self-service program, right? It is a self-service program. So you do a lot of these things online. There is no cost for universities to join. 0. Okay? Right now, more than 500 universities and institutes across the world have already been part of this. So we are very, very excited about this program. And we really hope that universities can benefit from this. So I've come almost to the end, and I want to end with this one last slide that I have. And what I want to encourage you is that start your own journey. Try something new. Change the way of thinking of how you actually undertake projects in your universities and in your institutes. Come talk to us. Again, I'll refer you to our colleague Daniel. Daniel, please put up your hand. Thank you. He's right at the corner there. If you want to even have a chat with us, we'll be around for a short while. We'll be happy to pass down our cards to you, and really appreciate that you spend this time with us. And so, again, my final word to you, encourage you to try something. Go start an AWS account, go do something different, experience something that you probably have not experienced before, and I guarantee you, you'll find it a lot more better. And with that, I want to thank you for paying attention and spending this time with us. 감사합니다.